Major health issues almost a year ago, and we're in the hospital together at the same time in ICU. Our son didn't know which room to go to, which to visit. And so we have started on a quest for help. And it's starting with you guys. We have another business that's looking at working with us, and we'll be telling you more about that in the future.
Definitely.
So today we want to talk to you all, though, because we've had you on the show before. We've talked to you about what you're going to be doing before you opened, and now you're open and had a fantastic grand opening, didn't we?
We did.
Oh my gosh, we did. Yeah, we were blessed.
Really
we had a lot of people show up to that.
You could not move. And so, we've talked with you on the show very formally about your business, about your practice, about what you can do for people. But we want to talk about it today in kind of a more informal fashion. And that's to talk about what we experienced. Because we got to go and visit with you all, just as you would have any patient do. And you started us through your 8-step program. And we got to sit down and you showed us, what is that nerve thing called? That's the NASA.
Oh, the NASA Published Space Certified Technology. It's called Insight Millennium is the name of the device, but it's a neurological assessment tool.
Yes. And we were kind of surprised by our neurological assessments.
No star.
And
no star.
Yeah. It was very interesting to see where you think you have pain and what's causing the pain.
Where the nerve
because
interference
it's the nerve. Yes, the nerve interference is not always the same as where you're feeling the pain, and that's what we learned. So I'm here today to tell you that for me personally, it was my neck. Michael would walk around on my side of the office to my desk, and I would be doing this. And after my adjustment, I started doing this.
That's awesome.
And instead of having to move from the torso, I could move my neck.
Yes.
So that was my big
Win.
After
My big win.
how many treatments?
after one treatment.
After just the first one.
After the first treatment.
It can happen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had been noticing a lot of stiffness in my neck again, and thinking, I'm going to have something done about this. And you did it. You did it.
Oh,
So-
Yeah.
See that? You see that competition?
I know. Don't worry. I'll come up.
Well, I'm going to balance that out to say that after my adjustment with Dr. Natalie, I was able to sleep better. So
Awesome.
she even stated that after the adjustment that I would feel sleeping a lot better that evening was going to happen, and it did. So we're excited about that. We're excited to get to walk through this 8-week program, or this 8-step program with Ignite Chiropractic. And you all are located here in Rogers, not very far here from Neighbors Mill, almost
Real
in
close.
the same
Really close.
general area here. So,
and then also, our son is joining us in this venture.
yes.
And I asked him what his number one benefit was from his adjustment the other day. And he said he felt happier and lighter, and he keeps asking, when's the next appointment, when's the next appointment, when's
That's
the next
really cool.
appointment?
Yes.
So we're pretty excited to see you all. All of us are excited to see you again for our next adjustment. The thing that stood out the most so far in our new relationship is how well you educate your clients, your patients. And I think that's very key to communication between the doctors and the client or the patient. And to me, that is just very instrumental in what you're doing. And because I hear so many people talking today about how medical doctors don't have the time to talk with them and teach them and educate them and such. And you all do that. You let people know what's happening in their body.
We carve that time out on purpose.
Yeah.
Because we're just as susceptible to that same get people in, get people out, because we have a business to run and there's a lot of people to serve. So we've had to strategically actually carve time out so that we can educate. And if we didn't do that, then we would probably fall prey to the same trap that most people do, where you don't have the time to educate. So I think that's just so important, because it does help with your understanding, and when you have a better understanding, it helps with the healing process.
Yeah.
It does. So, Dr. Natalie, anything you would like to elaborate on?
Well, yeah, it's just, more of that. Like we specifically carve out time, and we know that everybody has busy schedules, but we know that knowledge is power, and it absolutely aids in the healing process. So we make sure that we carve out that time for ourselves and really push you to carve out that time for yourselves, so that way you can realize that you are whole and your body does want to be healthy and your body does have the ability to heal. And then we just have to remind it one step at a time, and then we really ignite that through the adjustment.
Well, and the one other thing that I was really impressed about was, I saw the integrator, is it
Yeah.
called?
You got
Yes,
it.
okay.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Saw the integrator and I thought, oh, well, this is no different than any other chiropractor I've been to that uses an activator. And it was different. It was even less, do I want to use, not invasive, but less forceful,
maybe? Yeah.
even less forceful than the activator. And our son had never been adjusted with an activator even or anything like that. And so I have to tell you, he was laying there on that table trying not to laugh because he was like,
Oh, yeah, he was
how
telling
can
us,
this,
yeah.
right? He was like, how can this be doing anything?
Yeah.
And you heard already his testimony from the one adjustment.
Oh, it's awesome.
Well, it actually
Yeah.
goes through and it starts to change brain chemistry from that first adjustment. It changes the way the nerves signal to the brain, and it actually creates different levels of dopamine, which are the neurotransmitters in the brain. So it will actually boost wellness and balance out hormones. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is, and we appreciate having the opportunity to experience that, and look forward to this year with you of working on us.
Yes,
So.
we're excited to walk through the progressions and really just chart those progressions.
Yes.
So it'll be great to see how we come out on the other side of this. So,
Yes.
We're excited for you guys.
We're really excited for you guys.
Well, we're glad you're here. We're glad that you've got opened up. We're glad that you've finally got through all of the build out, the grand open. Now you can get to really what your heart and passion is all about, which is really igniting folks, getting them back to feeling energized and feeling whole again.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about. So,
Well, and it's time for us to go on to a break real quick,
Yes.
and then our next guest is going to be AJ Morris, and that's for our Feeling Good segment, which you all are frequently on our Feeling Good segment. But AJ is going to tell us about the nutritional benefits and even medical benefits of wine. So
that'll be a
stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
it will.
All righty.
So stick around. You may add some of that to your portfolio.
There you go.
Why not? Thank you.
All right. Well,
Let's go to break.
let's
Yeah.
go to break. Thanks.
Okay.
Excellent.
Woo-hoo.
Thank
AJ.
you so
Always
much.
good.
Appreciate
I was
both
gonna say,
of
look
you.
at these. Well.
Okay, we're back. And we have a very, very interesting guest with us today. I want to tell you a little bit about him. His name is A.J. Morris. Welcome.
Thank you, Arlene.
Nice to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, let me tell them a little bit about you before we get started on some questions, okay?
Thank you.
In this segment, we're going to find out what feeds more than 24 vitamins, 12 minerals, 9 enzyme families, and up to 1,000 acid complexes to every cell of your body. We have with us, as I said, A.J. Morris, an Arkansas native who then left the area for a while, has returned to Arkansas. He is a local writer, one of the first Eagle Scouts of Kansas, and he's author of Wine's Health Puzzle and Wine's Nutritional Power. He loves history and storytelling. You'll have a lot in common with my son because he loves history too. He's an educator, an entrepreneur. He's earned his MBA at Dallas Baptist University
Yes.
and his PhD at University of North Texas. Okay. He's also a proud U.S. veteran. We thank you for your service as a naval lieutenant.
Thank you.
And he's going to tell us about how wine can accelerate nutrition. So, and a little bit about how Prohibition actually pushed aside alcohol and wine's use as a daily drink and a medicine for healing. So, after 7 years of research, tell us a little bit about the biblical base in your book, the biblical teachings that are the base of your book.
Arlene, when I started doing the research, I didn't come at it from the biblical perspective. I didn't even know the Bible was a foundation of all the research I was going to do. I came out of a scientific industry of the pharmacy world. And I believed that the pharmacy world was our powerhouse of America. Mm-hmm. Well, the rest of the world is really pretty big also in medical programs. And what we have in America is not the same medical program as anybody else in the world.
No, I'd agree with that.
I like the idea that Europe uses the Nobel Prizes for the medical foundations they use, and we use Rockefeller medicine, which is out of original history out of American growing up with our hospital systems. And the rest of the world is pretty much back in, much of the older world is still back on the Hippocratic medicine or Chinese medicine systems. Mm-hmm. And the world is moving forward really fast on changing a lot of this. But stunningly, here it was in the Bible all the time, and it gave us a clue back in the Old Testament when that God said that He was going to give all the people wine as a blessing.
With all the other food items that he listed, right?
He listed
With
5
Moses?
food items. He actually gave us a food plan.
Mm-hmm.
And God's original food plan to the Hebrews was that He was going to give them the wine, the grain, the oil, the sheep, and the cattle. Well, that is a very fundamental food plan when you look at it. And that was the first change from Genesis, which had been giving you the roots and the herbs and the green vegetables.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So that was the first change of the medical plans that He had given us. But here, right in the middle of it, is wine. And so I didn't realize it was going to be so big. Later on, He tells us in Revelations that above all things, I want you to be in good health. Mm-hmm. Well, now that's pretty powerful for God to be standing out there saying to all of us Christians, above all things, I want you to be in good health. But I like His thinking. And I want to move forward with that. So I started doing the research. I didn't come in from that side at all. It just popped out along the way. And so here I am trying to discover all the places where this is happening. So Hippocratic medicine, Hippocrates was the father of American medicine. Mm-hmm. And his foundation of medicine was wine.
I did not know that until I read it in your book.
I had to go in and find out, well, if his foundation for medicine was wine and those people were so healthy, and they were, why was it so successful? Well, as I got to looking at it, there are 2 major foundations for health in the world. One of them was wine, and one of them was the Confucius Foundation, of Asia that is that you should boil or cook everything you ever eat that goes into your mouth. Well, the Asian foundation is really good, and it's still the foundation of Asia. I spent 2 years in China putting together joint ventures, and I can tell you that the Asian people are very thoughtful and careful, and their children at 2 years old know that nothing goes into their mouth that's not already been cooked or boiled. And so that is a standard that is easy to follow, and it's universal. And that is the foundation of why they have so many healthy people.
Because you notice frequently that obesity is not an issue among Asians like it is among Americans.
Yes, and that's caused by a lot of different things. But one of them is that the Asians do not allow people to buy. Well, in the Chinese, among the Chinese, and you're talking universally, their food base is different, but their health system is the big thing. Because if you can keep disease out of your culture, that's a big deal. The way that wine was given to God by God to the Hebrew people as His blessing, we didn't realize what that meant. But when wine was the foundation of Hippocratic medicine, here all of all of God's people mixed wine with the water, and so their water purification system was the disease-killing ability of wine.
Of the wine.
Well, you don't have to be too smart to figure out if wine kills all the diseases in the water, and here's all your typhus and cholera and typhoid and all of these world plagues, and wine kills them in 10 seconds. Now that's kind of stunning.
Yeah.
All right, and yet it does. And does our medical industry today go out to these countries that are having plagues and stop it with wine? It is so simple to do that, but nobody does that because there's no money in it.
Right.
So whenever you put the money factor behind everything that we do in medicine, it changes the factors. Money, the way that the money works in the medical industry is that the medical industry does not have a reversing program. So if you come up with a new technology that is a lot less costly, all of your hospitals go broke if you try to go to the least costly program. You don't have a least cost medical system. And you can't have it and keep building big hospitals. They depend on having more medicine, and more expensive medicine,
Right.
and more money to run the hospitals. And the doctors in Hippocratic days were public servants. They were not wealthy people. They were public servants with great reputations and integrity, but they were never intending to be wealthy people. Well, when John D. Rockefeller organized the American medical system, he turned it around. He turned it so that the medical industry would become very wealthy, and it would become the foundation, literally, of the American economic system.
Well, you mentioned earlier the thing about wine being God's blessing.
Yes.
And on that note, the Bible speaks of Christians being joyous. So were they just all drunk? And wasn't that the foundation for prohibition?
Oh, what a great question. Let me share with you why in 1998 we had 3 American PhDs. One of them was an MD. They all worked in the medical industry doing research. And they all collectively received, they didn't work together, didn't know each other, but they all were selected for a Nobel Prize on discovery of the nitric oxide trigger. Well, you know the nitric oxide trigger is a gentleman that carries a nitroglycerin tablet in his pocket to survive a heart attack.
Exactly.
Okay, but the heart attack is prevented by the nitric oxide, and it's in the wine. Only they didn't know it was in the wine in the beginning. And when they discovered it, they went out and they all wrote books about what they had discovered. Some of them say you can't ever have heart attacks again because of their discovery. And lo and behold, we find out it's been in wine all of these years. And so suddenly, wine was a big deal because it had the nitric oxide trigger. But let me tell you how that works.
Okay.
When the nitroglycerin tablet goes off, or whenever you drink the wine, in fact, within maybe 10 minutes or 5 minutes after you start drinking a glass of wine, the nitric oxide trigger suddenly is activated in your body. And the way it works, it releases all the smooth muscles in your body. Well, what are your smooth muscles?
Your heart.
Your intestines, your heart, the blood vessels around your vessels and your veins. All of the organs of your body are smooth muscles. When those muscles relax, suddenly your body has changed. You notice it immediately because within about 10 minutes after you start drinking wine, all of your anxiety goes away. That's because of the intestines. Your anxiety and everything comes out of your intestinal structure, and that's all chemistry, physiology put together by God. It was a plan, and so all of your anxiety goes away. And that's within about 10 minutes. But the thing that happens right behind that is that all of your blood vessels, the muscles that relaxed in your blood vessels, cause the blood vessels to enlarge. All the dead cells and food particles rush down to the liver and they're filtered out. The minute they're filtered out of the liver, they come rushing through the lungs and go through the body and flush your body with oxygen. Now, the people that don't know any better would have thought that this oxygen flush is a buzz from the wine liquor, because we have been trained to believe that we're all supposed to get drunk whenever we drink something that has alcohol in it. That's not true at all. The Hebrews didn't believe that. The Romans didn't believe it. The French didn't believe it. And nobody in that part of the world believes it today.
And so it's really more an abuse of it that brings on the drunkenness.
That's what happens. If you drink wine real fast, and in fact the Hebrews and all those people would drink wine for weeks, never get drunk, months, in their whole lifetime, never get drunk. But they were mixing it with water. It was their method of delivery of a medical program.
And brought about the cleanliness of their water. So,
Yes,
well,
purified the water, purified the disease in their stomachs.
That is so awesome. Well, I do want to show everybody your book. It's called Wine's Nutritional Power, and they can get it through Amazon,
Yes.
Google, BarnesandNoble.com, Google Play, I believe it is.
Yes.
So it's available all over the place. So please do check out this book so you can learn more about wine's nutritional power. AJ, it's time for us to move on to a little bit more information on mortgages. So let's switch it back over to Michael.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you. So I could go.
The insight with
I'll
AJ
come back
Morris, we
again.
really appreciate that. This morning we are very
If that's because we can get into other aspects that are as equally
Who's the
exciting.
branch
But
manager with
I
Gateway
hope
Mortgage. Kathy, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And Kathy's been a lifelong native of Northwest Arkansas, really involved in Rogers and also in the Arkansas Public Theater in downtown Rogers. Ed is really the director on the board
That's
of
right.
directors as well. And you all spend a lot of time with the theater. But,
We do.
but your expertise is also in getting folks into homes. And so talk to us a little bit about kind of, how you get people meshed into homes and basically what's going on in the mortgage industry at this point.
The mortgage industry is very busy right now. Getting people into homes is our main goal. We focus on just home loans. We don't do checking or savings or anything like that. We focus on getting people into homes, and we work with our customers. We work very diligently to get them into homes.
Kathy, what I've always loved about you is you've had over 40 plus years of experience in the mortgage industry.
Yes.
You've seen it from one end to the other, but what I like is that personal face-to-face interaction that you give people, and you really walk them through that really A to Z of what it takes to get a mortgage and moving forward with that. Tell us a little bit about, from your standpoint, about buying a new home versus renovating. Talk to us a little bit about that in terms of.
Either one of them are great. It's just whatever fits best with your family. A lot of times with renovation loans, you can buy a fixer-upper. You can get a larger home in a better neighborhood, fix it up, and have the home that you really want. Some people want to build, and I want to make sure that the kitchen's exactly the way I want it. Well, you can do that with a renovation loan too. You have the basic guts of the house, but you do what you want to do with the renovation.
Well, you know, people come to you a lot with regards to their concern over equity and value in the home, especially when they're ready to sell it and get ready to move into something else. But within that issue, which is, you know, in terms of that equity and value, which is better to do? Is it better to fix it up at that point, or is it better to sell it? Or in your opinion, is it better to kind of just, you know, put some money into it, hang on to it for a little while? How does a person work through that mortgage issue?
I know personally we were going through this too. We wanted to move into downtown Rogers, but
Right.
then we decided that we love our home, we love our neighborhood, we've lived there a long time, and so we have just decided that we're going to renovate, and we're going to do it the way we want to, and this will be our home that we stay in. So with that's kind of the one thing is, do you really like your neighborhood? Do you really like the school district? There are a lot of things to weigh, and is it too big for me? Am I getting, you know, to the age where I don't need, you know, 3,000 square feet or 3,500 square feet?
So there's really some advantages to taking the equity and fixing up your home,
Right.
and doing
Yes.
that. What should a person consider, you know, and you probably answered this just a few minutes ago, but when deciding on the purchase of a fixer-upper, what really should they, you know, be looking for if they're looking for a fixer-upper versus a brand new home? And
Well, they need to look at the structural part of the house, and
Okay.
they need to have a contractor go in and tell them, okay, this can be done, this can't be done. We've had people that have looked at houses, and once they get the contractor out there, it's like, no, this just isn't going to work for us. And you look at your school districts. You look at, you know, where you shop, where you go to church. You know, those kind of things. And I think people look at homes and it's like, well, this is the home of my dreams, but they don't always look at the surrounding area and make sure that that's the area of their dreams.
Exactly. Well, from a rate standpoint, what should people be knowing about the market today from the mortgage rate standpoint? And
Well, the thing is pay your bills. Pay your bills on time.
Yeah.
Credit score is everything now.
Okay.
It helps with the rate. So you really make sure that you keep your credit in good shape. If you don't have the best credit, you don't think, come in, let us run your credit. We can tell you what you need to do to help you improve your credit enough where you can get a better rate.
Excellent, excellent. Kathy, thank you again. We're excited to always kind of, you know, talk about what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
You are a very wonderful expert in the industry.
Well, thank you.
You really have known the market back and forth for many years, and that's really important to people. How can people locate you at Gateway Mortgage? Where are you located?
We are located in historic downtown Rogers
Excellent.
at 214 West Walnut Street.
Okay.
And we are loving being in downtown Rogers. It's like coming back home for me.
Well, it is, and I'll tell you also, your storefront there is a wonderful location for Art on the Bricks as
Yes.
well, and I know you're heavily involved with that, and we appreciate all of your contribution to Rogers.
Well, thank you.
Kathy,
Thank you.
thank
It
you
was
very
very
much
pleasure.
for being on the show, and we look forward to
you.
getting you back.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
and now to our sponsors. Easy.
ma'am.
with Arkansas Crisis Center.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us a little bit about the organization and how it got started, how long it's been around.
Yes, so back in 1985, following a rash of teen suicides at Rogers High School, a group of concerned volunteers got together and they decided that the teens needed some helpline services. They're in a basement and quickly realized that that need expanded and reached all ages, and they needed to expand the area. So now our helpline serves every age, every demographic, and all 75 counties in the state.
Wow, that was going to be my next question, was about, since it's Arkansas Crisis Center, does it cover the whole state?
It sure does, yes,
Wow.
ma'am.
That is amazing. So what are the goals of the organization? What's it there for?
Yeah, well, our mission is to restore hope and empower people and to save lives through crisis intervention and suicide prevention, which is largely done through our helpline. We believe that crisis is self-defined, so whether you're in a state of crisis, maybe you're experiencing some sort of trauma, or you're just going through a tough time, or you're feeling self-destructive or even suicidal, we're there to help. You can call us up, and any reason we'll help get you through it and connect you to some resources in the community, from wherever it is that you're calling from, to help you get through after our call ends.
So you have connections all over the state.
We do.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll get some more.
Well, Arkansas has a high suicide rate still, so you all have your work cut out for you. Tell us a little bit about that rate.
So Arkansas ranks 14th in the nation as far as deaths by suicide go, and we are trying to combat that statistic, and a large part of that is our volunteers. So obviously we have our helpline, where you can volunteer and you can actually be trained to answer the line.
Okay.
And then we also have outreach services. So I love going to schools, talking to students, Rotary clubs, fire departments, police stations, basically whoever will let me talk to them, I will talk to them. Get some training, just some education out there, so we can have kind of a safety net in the community to help these people who are at risk.
And that includes being on Good Morning Neighbor, huh?
It sure does, yes ma'am.
Okay. Well, I have two more questions I want to ask you. You talked about your volunteers. So how do volunteers get involved? We talked about they can be on the phone lines, or they can even help with the outreach.
Right.
Are there other volunteer opportunities, or how do they get in contact with you to do that?
So they could contact me via phone or email, which can both be found on our website, which is www.arcrisis.org.
Okay.
If neither one of those categories is something they feel suits them, I promise I will come up with something for them to do. I will never turn away help. So however you want to get involved, I can make it happen.
You'll find a place for
Yes,
their skill
ma'am.
set to match up.
Absolutely. And then of course, sponsorships, donors, something nonprofits always need as well.
Always. One of the things we do, and we'd love to add your information to it, when we go to visit people that have just moved to the area or a new homeowner, we take information for nonprofit organizations, and we give them a small bundle. It's not a large, overwhelming bundle, but it is a small bundle of information about different nonprofits. And we encourage them to sit back with a cup of tea or coffee, their favorite beverage, and go through those and find where their skill set matches up with one of the nonprofits.
Yes.
Because we do have a wide array of nonprofits in the area, and a
too.
large number of them. So, well, my last question is, tell me what, if there's someone out there that feels they need your services and they call your line, they may be a little apprehensive about doing that. So what does that look like? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so they would call up, and our training, of course, is to be very accepting, non-judgmental, just there for whatever reason they need. A lot of people have trouble talking at first. We just encourage them to talk when they're ready. prompt them a little bit. Sometimes they just want to call up and get a feel, and they may not really say anything and hang up and call back again. They just want to know that we're there. So we're just there to provide a supportive, nurturing, non-judgmental environment for people to be able to express themselves however they need.
Awesome. Well, Emily, I appreciate you being with us today. And I believe that Michael is going to talk to the Rogers Museum next, the foundation. And so we'll go over to that guest, and hopefully we'll have you back one day to talk in even more detail about your program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Nice to have you.
And thank you, Arlene. It was a great conversation with Emily from the Crisis Center. And this morning we have with us Kathy Bland Orr, Executive Director of Development with the Rogers Museum Foundation. Kathy, great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and then kind of how long the Museum Foundation has been around.
So I actually grew up in Rogers.
All right, excellent.
Yes, my son is the 6th generation of our Blaine family to be here.
Wow.
So Rogers is very important to me. I was actually a high school history teacher before this, and then I stayed at home with my children. And then I joined the foundation board a few years ago. And then when the executive director left last July, I became the new executive director.
Wow. Well, fantastic.
Yes.
So not only have you had roots here in Rogers, you grew up here in Benton County in northwest Arkansas, so you've really had a lot of history as well.
Yes.
So how did you get involved in the foundation?
Well, actually, my mother, Kay Blaine, was the director of the museum before John Burroughs.
Okay.
So I grew up in the museum.
Okay.
But when he took over, he asked me to help with one of their annual galas that they put on, and so I helped with that. I really like to throw a party. It's one of the things I like to do. And
Everybody loves a party.
I know. And after that, he asked if I'd want to join the actual foundation board, which I decided to do.
Excellent.
And so I got involved with the capital campaign and trying to raise money to start the newly expanded Rogers Historical Museum.
Fantastic.
So, and the Rogers Museum Foundation was actually founded in 2011
Okay.
to start the process of the capital campaign to raise funds for the Rogers Historical Museum.
Okay. Really, what is the mission of the, not only the foundation, obviously, but the museum, obviously, to preserve?
Right. So the main purpose of the Rogers Museum Foundation is actually to provide ongoing financial support
Okay.
to the Rogers Historical Museum to help subsidize the money that it receives from the city of Rogers.
Okay.
Because it's actually a part of the city of Rogers.
All right. Excellent to know that.
Yes.
So
That's the main purpose of it, is to provide them with money to support programs or the building of the newly expanded museum.
okay. Where is the newly expanded museum charted for? When is it charted to kind of get underway as far as the expansion
So
part?
it's actually already started.
Excellent. Excellent.
So it will actually, the opening of it is for the middle of December of 2018.
Wow.
So we're actually really lucky. We're using our old building, which is the Key Wing,
Okay.
for education purposes. It will
Okay.
become the new education wing. We will keep the Hawkins House, which was the actual museum before 1987.
Okay.
And they expanded off of that to create the Key Wing. The Hawkins House was built in 1895. So it's one of the oldest houses in Rogers.
Unbelievable.
And we use it for tours. We decorate it for Christmas, and we decorate it for or for like October and things like that, and so people can take tours of it.
Fantastic.
And then we also have the Eversole Collections building,
Okay.
which is the old Masonic Lodge and Youth Center, and it was our old county offices before they built the new building. So it's like where the DMV was.
All right.
We have over 50,000 objects in our collection.
50,000.
Yes.
50,000.
Yes. And before we had the new Eversole Collections building, we we had them in our Key Wing, we had them in our annex, which was the old library and post office.
Okay.
And so or in storage units. So now all of our collections are in one building. And now the new building, which is across the street from the Key Wing, it actually is an old Haley Ford building, and we've made it look like how it looked then, with like the curve on the outside of it, the glass windows, and it's going to be where all of our gallery space is now.
Wow.
And one of the great things about the gallery space is we're going to have a collections gallery, so all of those 50,000 objects, at some point, hopefully, I don't know how many we can get out, but we're going to be able to put some of them in this gallery collection, like have a quilt, have all our quilts that we have out on display, all of the woodwork, so people that have donated things can finally see their objects out. So even if they don't fit into one of the galleries we have, they'll fit into our collections gallery.
That is fantastic. So really kind of covering all those bases from A to Z if
Yes.
you can. And tell us a little bit about the board of directors behind the efforts of everything that's going on with obviously with the expansion and the foundation,
Yes.
all of that.
We have a great board of directors. They have been so supportive of me and the mission of trying to help with the capital campaign. Jenny Harmon right now is our president.
Okay.
Marilyn Reese is our secretary. And then we have like Jim Toll is on our board. David Swearingen's on our board. Lacey Gray is on our board. John Ford is on our board. So we have a lot of members of our community that are actually on our board. Joe Chastain is on our board. So it's really a great group of people that have come together to help support this capital campaign. Susan Kendall's on our board.
Okay.
So it's been really great. They have really helped us to support the capital campaign, to help gain more donors. They even volunteer. I mean, they come to help with the Christmas open house. John Ford is our BF Sykes for our ghost walks that we do.
Okay.
So they really, not only do they help us get financial support, they volunteer their time. And they've actually been really helpful. They help with the growth of our endowments,
Okay.
Which is the next thing that we're going to focus on after the capital campaign is all the way done in December.
Well, speaking of some other things that are going on, it looks like you've got the 2018 Rocky Branch one-room schoolhouse program
Yes,
that
so
you all are doing.
One of the things that we sponsored was the Rocky Branch Schoolhouse.
Okay.
What it is elementary school groups can come out to Rocky Branch and have a day of living history. Pretty much we make them students. We dress in costumes. I've done this before, of like in 1905 teacher costumes.
In period.
In period, yes. And we make them write on slates. We make them do spelling bees. We have them read from the McGruffy Reader. So they actually, they do recess with graces and jump ropes and hoops. So they pretty much come out and they spend a day as if they are living in 1905.
Actually, when exercise went on at that time.
Yes,
Well, tell us, we're going to wrap up here, but tell us a little bit about how folks can connect in volunteering as well as just online or getting a hold of you.
So you can look on our website. It's www.rhmsupporters.org.
Okay.
And that has information on how to donate. It has information on how to volunteer. You can even just call the museum. The phone number is 479-621-1154.
Okay.
And you can ask for me, Kathy Orr.
All right. Excellent.
I'm not there every day. I just
Okay.
work part-time, but if you leave a message, I'll call you back as
Well,
soon as
that's-
I get in.
That is very good because
Yes.
sometimes people feel like if they leave a message, they certainly wonder if they'll get called
I
back.
will always call you back if you leave me a message. I love to talk to people, so.
Well, Kathy, thank you for coming out. We're going to have you back on the show to
Yes.
really talk about some different things that'll be coming up in the fall, as well
Yes.
as you get into the beautiful themes for Christmas that you'll have going on.
Yes.
We're excited to get to know about historical historical places that are preservation in downtown Rogers or also in Rogers in general.
Yes.
So,
Well, thank you
Kathy,
so much for
thank
having me.
you. And now a break and a word from our sponsors. Well, we're back, and thank you again, Arlene. And also, we are excited today to have with us Cecile Bledsoe. Cecile, you are running for re-election in District 3, I believe. And we're excited to have you on the show this morning. Give us a little insight about you and how you got involved in politics and your passion for Northwest Arkansas, particularly Benton County.
Dee, it could be.
I'm glad to be with you today. I was just doing the next thing, being a wife and a mother and helping my husband in his surgical clinic every now and then. And I had some people knock on the door in 1998 and they said, hey, we want you to run for state representative. I never thought about it. I didn't even know I wanted to do it. And so that's kind of how I got started. And then I served 6 years in the House of Representatives, and due to term limits, I was through. And I thought, okay, that's it. But then 4 years later, about 3.5, the same thing happened. I ran for the Senate, and I'm here, and just excited to do that.
Well, there you go. So you've served 2 terms in the Senate.
Yes.
And there's really quite a bit about your background. You currently serve as the chairman of the Senate Health, Welfare, and Labor Committee.
That's right.
And then during the 88th General Assembly, you served as vice chairman of Joint Performance Review.
Right.
In the 87th General Assembly, you were vice chairman of the Senate Substance Abuse Treatment Services. Also, I liked this one where it looks like you were wonderfully honored during the 87th General Assembly. The Arkansas Medical Society selected you for the Legislature of the Year Award. You've had some distinguished honors. Also, the one that I really thought was important because of your background in terms of children was during the 89th General Assembly. You received the Children's Advocacy Center of Benton County Shining Star Award for service.
Right.
So you've really had a lot of
Thank you.
background in serving
Yeah.
the constituents, not
Yes.
only of the districts you've represented, but of the state of Arkansas.
Yes.
And so I'll tell you though, this is most interesting to me. How do you manage being a wife and you're also a wonderful mother of 3 children, I believe?
3 children.
3 children.
And 10 grandchildren.
And 10 grandchildren. Unbelievable. How do you work it all in?
Well, you just get organized. And it's just a real pleasure to serve the people of District 3. And I say, like maybe some others that are in the Senate, I say that I have the very best people in the state of Arkansas in District 3. They're great people.
I'll tell you, certainly you've done a lot. I know our guest that we had on just previously with the Rogers Museum, you got a great grant for them that you did.
Thank you.
And what is it like kind of, really preserving things that are going on in your community?
Oh, well, it's so important because you look around and you see so many people doing so many good things and you want to help them. You have a homeless shelter, Souls Harbor, that I have helped. You have the volunteer fire departments that are helping these districts. Like in my district in Garfield, we have the Northeast Benton County Volunteer Fire Department. It's one of the largest in the state. And they're doing great things. We have a food pantry called God's Pantry in Garfield.
Okay.
And then you see the farmers market that you want to help. And so there are just so many good things going on in this area that you just want to jump in and just start helping.
Well, your district actually covers kind of an interesting boundary, as you said, up toward Garfield.
Yes,
and then
it's all of Rogers, Garfield, Gateway, Pea Ridge, Avoca. I have a little bit of Bethel Heights and a little bit of Lowell. I have 88,000 constituents.
88,000.
I do.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
It's,
I'm sure your phone rings off the hook quite
well,
often.
it does, but I try to remember when it's ringing a lot is that really the person on the other end is my employer.
Yes.
And I say, they'll start off by saying, I hate to bother you, I know you're busy, and I'll say, wait a minute, I work for you. You pay my salary, so what can I do?
Exactly. Speaking of that, you've been out on the campaign trail,
Right.
and what are folks saying in the district as far as what are you hearing and what do folks want to know about?
Well, I think one of the biggest concerns for most people in my district, they want affordable and accessible health care. And I like to say, that's a passion of mine as well, and I like to say you can have the best education, which I am all about education.
Sure.
And you can have a beautiful home and you can be happy in whatever you're doing, but if you don't have good health and you don't have good health care, a lot of that is just not that important. So I think that's number one from what I'm hearing.
Sure. What's kind of going on at the moment in the Senate?
Yes.
In Little Rock that folks should be tuned into? What are the kind of those hot buttons that
Well,
that you're leading the way on?
Well, one thing that I'm most proud of is that we have, I was the lead sponsor on the telemedicine bill.
Okay.
And it was not something that you just say, okay, I'm going to do this. We did a lot of research with Dr. Curtis Lowry, who has the telehealth department at UAMS, and we started that way back in 2013. And we did all the research, and then in 2015, we started with the telemedicine bill that laid the groundwork, that did really the hard work of getting, what does this mean? Can we hold up a standard of excellence? Can a person, an Arkansan who is using telemedicine, can they count on this? We have standards. So we were one of the first, from what I was told, one of the first states to have a telemedicine bill that laid the groundwork with standards. And then, and my heart was to say to people, you can live anywhere in the state of Arkansas and still have good health, because you can go out in the rural areas and use telemedicine. Then in 2017, we said that wherever the patient is, that is the originating site. Before, the originating site with telemedicine was in a clinic or in a hospital, but now it can be in a person's home. And I did get an award from AARP for doing that, because our elderly can be monitored in their home with telemedicine. And I could just go on and on. That's the future of medicine, and that's a big deal.
That's unbelievable, especially, you know, with everything we have today in the way of what I call electronic innovation,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and yet this is something that is certainly on the tops of
Right.
people's minds.
It
And
is.
when you get to seniors, that is certainly something
That's
that's important
right.
for them.
That's right.
Especially when sometimes you can't get out, and sometimes there's a disability at hand.
Absolutely.
But when you've got this is leading edge, this is cutting edge.
It really is,
to
and
get folks
legislation cannot keep up with the changes in telemedicine. So there'll be another, but that's one reason I'd like to go back to the Senate, because to continue to make sure that we hold up a standard in telemedicine and it meets the needs of the people.
Tell me a little bit, my goodness, you know, Cecile, you've been involved. I went back and did a little reading from your
Yep.
website, and I counted up these bills that you've
Yep.
sponsored. I think
Yes.
there's over 20 plus
Yep.
bills that you've
Yep.
sponsored, and then really almost to co-sponsoring as
Yep.
well.
Yes.
And tell me which one, and probably out of that list, were you most passionate about, or
Well,
I'm sure you're passionate about all of them, but at the same time, I'm sure there's one that just really probably stuck out.
Michael, I'm passionate about the ones that I have, because you take ownership.
Sure.
You know, you have a great idea, and you want to see it come to fruition. But I'd say, you know, telemedicine was one of them. And then I think about the taxpayers and how we can simplify their lives. And a lot of times people will come to me and say, let me tell you something that really bothers me and I want you to fix it. So one of the things, a man came to me and he said, I travel all the time. He said, I want to register my car, but I don't want to have to do it every year, because I have 3 teenagers that drive, I have a wife that drives, I have a car.
Sure.
So now you can register your car up to 3 years in advance, and that was one of the things that I did.
That has been fantastic, let me
Good.
tell you, and
Good.
thank you so much for doing that as well. And well, finally, tell us a little bit about how people can connect to get involved with you if they want to get on the campaign. And
Well, yes, I'm glad you asked that. Thank you. They can call me at my home, 636-2115. We've
Okay.
lived in the same house for 39 years.
39 years.
And in Rogers for 40.
Wow.
And so they can call me there, or they can email me, cecile.bledsoe@yahoo.com. Look me up on the internet. I have my cell phone listed. I'd love to hear from them.
Well, excellent. And I'll tell you, Cecile, that's one thing I really loved about you the other day, was I was able to just pick up the phone and call.
Absolutely.
And you answered.
That's it.
That
That's
is
it.
unreal
Well,
in
that-
this day and age. And let me
well-
tell you, thank you for doing that.
And I'm grateful to the constituents in District 3 for letting me do that. They're the ones that give me the energy and the desire to go back to Little Rock.
Well, I know we're going to have you back on the 13th.
Yes.
We're excited to
Yes,
do
thank
that.
you.
And I'll tell you, Cecile, we're looking forward to seeing what's
Thank
happening
you.
on the campaign trail with you.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Appreciate
We
it.
look forward to having you.
Thank
And
you.
now to Arlene with Dee Harold.
Yeah, we go.
We really appreciate you for being with us, Cecile, and look forward to having you back again. Well, today I have with me now a visitor, a guest that has been on the show before. Her name is Dee Harold, and she is a CPA. We've had her here before to talk about her business in general, but today we're going to get real specific. Isn't that right, Dee?
That's correct.
Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, you've been doing CPA work for several years, a few anyway.
A few decades, yes.
Which is always great for someone to have someone who has that longevity, doing their taxes, helping them with their bookkeeping, things like that. Well, like I said, we've talked about general services you offer and things of that nature before, but today let's talk about the tax changes of 2018. Okay?
Okay.
What is the most significant tax change this year for the small business owner?
Probably the income deduction, the business income deduction, You know, the corporate businesses that are publicly traded or C corporations went from 35% to 21% for their taxes,
Wow.
which is a huge, huge cut. And a lot of their retailers have actually given their employees a one-time bonus because they're going to be saving so much in taxes. So not only did the corporation get a tax cut, but they kind of boosted the economy a little bit because they've given that money out, some of that money out to their employees. But for the other business owners, as long as your income is below or in the phase out, you're going to get a 20% off of your taxable income. Now, it's not for self-employment taxes. You have to pay those first.
Yeah.
But if you make $150,000, as long as on a joint return you're not over $315,000, you could get a $30,000 savings on your $30,000 deduction on your taxable income. So instead of paying $150,000, you would be paying the taxes on the $120,000.
And what about on the personal side? Was there a major tax
Oh,
change?
absolutely, absolutely. The individuals are going to see such a huge change this year. For one thing, we're not going to have the 3 different tax returns. It's going to be just the 1040. Everybody will file a 1040.
Awesome.
And they're trying to shorten that so that it's not as long. So the most simplest of returns from one W-2 to the most complex will all be on the same tax return. The more complex you have it, you'll just have more schedules to add to it. So it could still be a book,
Okay.
but it'll still be on the same 2 forms.
Well, and that's one of the reasons to have someone like you on payroll for a small business or even an individual is that you have that knowledge of what all those different attachments are, and you can advise on that.
And I would recommend that whoever they're using, that they make an appointment before the end of the year and sit down and discuss how these tax changes are going to affect their tax returns. Because somebody who has been itemizing for years are going to be a little bit shocked this year when they are not going to be able to itemize because of the other limits on the Schedule A.
Okay, because that would be a big change,
Very
and a
big.
kind of a shock for a lot of people. They're going to go, but I've always itemized.
Yeah.
You know,
And when you have a standard deduction of $24,000, it's going to be hard for a lot of individuals to get over that, to be able to itemize, especially with the cuts that we're seeing on the Schedule A.
because you mentioned that 24,000, and was that what you said, 24,000? And that includes, like, if I make donations to Helping Hands or Goodwill or any of those, I don't have to have the receipts now
You'll still have to be able to substantiate your deductions.
Okay.
But to get to 24,000 is going to be really hard for an individual. I mean, when you've
For
got
the
a married,
average person,
for the
yeah.
married filing joint couple that's got a 24,000, or the single person that's got a $12,000 standard deduction, that's still quite a bit.
Right. Okay. Well, anything else you need to tell us about the tax year?
Probably another big shock is going to be you're going to lose your personal exemptions. So where you used to get $4,050 per person, you're no longer going to see those anymore.
So is it kind of all rolled up into this 24,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you've got a really big family, it's probably going to hurt you a little bit. But if you've got a small family, you're really going to benefit from it right now.
Okay. Yeah, because we have friends that are a family of 10. So.
Oh, wow. Now, if they're under the age of 16, they're okay because the child tax deduction went from $1,000 to $2,000.
Oh, they're okay then.
But for the average person, it could be very substantial for them.
All 8 of their kids are under 16.
Oh,
so.
that's awesome.
So they'll make out pretty nicely. I bet,
Yes,
this
they
year.
will.
Okay. Well, Dee, as always, it's great to have you with us
Thank you.
today, and you and I have some work to do on our taxes and such, so we'll be getting together for that. And I always appreciate working with you. I appreciate your knowledge. I appreciate that you are forgiving and easy to work with too. So if anyone needs to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
My phone number is 501-269-4380. That's 501-269-4380. If I don't answer the phone, just leave me a message and I'll get back with you.
And she's very good to get back with you. So thanks again, Dee, and that's Dee Harold, CPA. And we're going to switch on over back to Michael, and he's got a surprise guest for us.
Awesome.
I'm not on Facebook at all.
Well, thank you, Arlene, for taking time with D. Harold, discussing kind of the tax changes that are going on in 2018. Talking about things that are going on local, though, we have Russ Anzalone with us today, who is the chair of the County Election Commission in Benton County. Russ, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks
Glad
for
to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being on. Russ, talk to us a little bit about your background, how you got involved in the County Election Commission, and really kind of what's going on.
Well, I was involved with the Republican Party,
Sure.
and there was a point where they needed someone to run as a representative of the Republican Party for the Election Commission.
Okay.
And so I threw my hat in the ring, and I was elected from our party. There are 3 election commissioners on every county,
Okay.
and the way they devise the distribution of that is the party that has at least 4 of the 7 state seats, the governor, lieutenant governor, and so forth, they have 2 representatives, and the minority party has 1.
Okay.
So I was the lone individual on there, although I will tell you this much, whoever's on the election commission, we are all about elections, we're not about party.
Correct.
We do. So there's no bickering about party at all.
Right.
We're there to serve the public with providing the best elections that we possibly can. And then, of course, here a couple of years ago, things reversed and Republicans took over all 7 seats. And we had then 2 election commissioners from the Republican Party, 1 from the Democratic Party.
Give us a little bit of background on what the election commissioner does, because a lot of folks, they see all of these positions within the county and they wonder,
Sure.
well, what do these people do? So kind of walk us through a little bit of that.
Sure. Basically, we run the elections, is
Sure.
what we do. We don't have anything to do with registration, which a lot of people think we do.
Okay.
That's done by the county clerk. So when there is going to be an election, there's a certain time frame that a municipality has in order to file with the county clerk in order to have an election, and they approve the particular date for it.
Sure.
From that point on, it's sort of turned over to the election commission in order to decide what particular precincts we are going to have open for the election, for early voting, for election day itself. And we then print the ballots and get everything prepared for the election itself.
And so in and of that, you really kind of handle getting the machines out.
Oh, yes.
You also handle really kind of, again, those locations, deciding where those voters
Okay.
should be directed to.
Yes.
And then you oversee all of that in terms of the election cycles.
Well, fortunately now, because of the new equipment that we do have, and also what we did a couple of years ago, for early voting, you can vote anywhere. Wherever there's a location that's open, you can vote. And now for the election day itself, you can vote anywhere as well. You don't have to go to a particular precinct like you used to several years ago.
Okay.
So if you're passing by, driving by, and you see on election day it says vote here, you can go anywhere to vote.
Excellent. When it comes down to a special called election, what's involved in terms of the logistics of that, as far as all of a sudden you've decided on the dates for that special called election, or and then again it's locations as to where to vote or where to go vote, and kind of what goes into the decision making? It's always been interesting to me. What goes into the decision making and where those locations are?
Normally with special elections for early voting, we open up the 3 offices of the county clerk, the one in Siloam Springs, the one in Rogers, and the one in Bentonville.
Okay.
Unless it's a large election, but I'm just talking about a special type election. Like
Sure.
we have one coming up the 14th of August for Siloam Springs primary.
Okay.
And the Rogers special election that is coming up. So for early voting, just the 3 locations. then we decide based upon the type of election how many locations we are going to open up in Siloam Springs as well as in Rogers for those residents to vote.
Okay.
And it really depends, and I hate to say on the importance of the election as to how many locations we open,
Sure.
but we know from past experience how people vote, how many people turn out, so that's a deciding factor as to how many locations we have.
Now, when it comes to in an election, the night of the election, in terms of the results of the election, is that more to the clerk, or is that more in your position?
That's our position.
Your position, okay.
There are certain things that we have to follow by law,
Sure.
such as the absentee ballots are all opened on election day.
Okay.
Okay. We have to have results by 7:30, along with the early voting results at 7:30.
Okay.
The counting of the votes on election day may go until 11, 12, 1 in the morning, depending upon what is going on. But
Right.
hopefully with the new equipment, it will not take that long. But we follow everything right by the book as to what we do and how we have to do that.
Well, I know things have kind of come a long way in terms of the new equipment that you all
Yes,
have
they
out
have.
there, and do you still have paper ballots out there? Are there still paper ballots as far as those that go overseas or that type of thing, or kind of how does that go now in terms of folks who are voting overseas?
Actually, we have paper ballots everywhere now.
Excellent.
For those that are overseas or those that require an absentee ballot, they actually get a large sheet
Okay.
with everything on it for them to vote on. But now with the new equipment, when you go in to vote, they actually give you a card, and you go to the Express Vote and you insert the card, and it brings up your particular individuals that you are going to vote for.
All right.
You do use the machine to vote on, and it prints that card. You get to take that card out and look at it and determine whether or not these are the people that you actually voted for. If that is correct, then you go over to the DS200 machine.
Okay.
We call it the garbage can because it looks like a 55-gallon drum garbage can,
Okay.
and you insert your vote in there, and that's what tabulates it.
Oh, wonderful. Excellent. So, one other quick question. Sometimes I'll get the question when I'm standing there in line, you know, you've changed where you lived, you've changed your address or something of that nature. Talk to us a little bit about kind of what's involved a person should bring
Okay.
with them when they've changed their address
Sure.
and things like that.
When you show up to vote, we ask you for a photo ID
Sure.
right now because that's what the law is. We ask you then, even though we have your photo ID, we still ask you for your name, your address, and your date of birth in order for us to verify who you are. If you've had a change of address, you then have a form to fill out, and then the sheriff of that particular location calls the county clerk's office
Okay.
because where you move to, you may now be voting in a different precinct with different people.
Ah,
So we want to make sure that who you were voting for are actually the correct people.
there you go.
We then make the change right there for you. The county clerk goes ahead and changes that, and then you get to vote for the right people.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Russ, it's been really educating to talk about what goes on with the Election Commission and really what you do in that position as well. Because I think a lot of folks, when it gets down to voting, you know, all of the nuances, so to speak, that go behind the scenes of what goes on and deciding where to vote, when to vote, how to vote, those types of things. That's all a lot in your venue, as well as working with the various local and state entities that,
Oh, yes.
that you have to work through. So it's not just, you know, it's not just a group of 3 or 4 people working on this. It's really
No, it's a task. At the last primary, we had to have 633 different ballot styles.
633.
Yes.
Wow.
So
Unbelievable.
633 different ballots is what we had to produce.
Unbelievable.
For the general election, we're probably looking at about 260 to 300, depending upon who registered.
I'll tell you, a lot.
A lot,
Definitely
yes.
a lot. Well, Russ, thank you for being on the show with us. We want to have
Not a
you
problem,
back as
Michael.
we come toward more of the election time again. We're coming up on elections here.
Yes.
And so it'll be great to try to get you back right before you really get into the thick of it. So
Not a problem. We're glad to come back.
Russ, appreciate your time.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
Michael.
All right, and now to break. And we'll be right back. Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate you so
Anytime.
much.
Sure.
Look forward to eclectic show we've had today.
That's right. That was our goal, is we were doing an eclectic show today, and we have had one. We love doing eclectic shows and just bringing in a variety of people, because then we're really focusing on the people, and I enjoyed that so much. Hey, what about our T-shirts we're wearing today?
Well, we are actually wearing our Welcome Home t-shirts in honor of Life Point Baptist Church's new facility out in Centerton. We're very excited about that. And also, we're going to be talking about Vacation Bible School at VBS Saddle Ridge Ranch. And I think we've run some information, or will run some information on that, to talk about what's happening at Life Point on their Vacation Bible School.
Well, it'll be out on our Facebook
Yes,
page.
yes.
And so that'll be out there in just a little while.
And that starts this week, by the way.
Starts tonight.
Starts tonight.
Starts
So,
tonight.
if you want to get the kiddos out, then
Ages 4 through 6th grade.
there you go.
So bring the kids out to Saddle Ridge Ranch.
Try to say that 3 times. to
Yeah,
see
that's
what
my
happens.
problem. Well, besides Vacation Bible School, some of the other things we have coming up. Well, while we were talking about Life Point and the Welcome Home shirts,
Yes.
September 9th is going to be Life Point's grand opening of their new building.
Yes, their dedication.
The dedication and grand opening. So there'll be a lot of events happening, a lot of excitement there that day. And beyond that, July 31st, we have the Botanical Gardens of the Ozarks Summer Concert Series. They're down to only 2 concerts left. This one is Funk Factory, and it's a high energy band covering anything from Motown soul to rock and roll and modern pop.
Wow. And then, of course, we're coming into fair time. And we're going to be starting out August 7th through 11th with the Benton County Fair. Also, we've got that same week, the 120th Tawny Town Grape Festival. 120 years they've been celebrating the Tawny Town Grape Festival.
Maybe next year it won't be on the same week as the Benton County Fair.
Of course, I wonder if the same stompers are stomping the grapes from 120 years ago to today.
I kind of doubt that.
Kind of doubt that. Okay.
So, anyway, moving on. What other fair do we have?
So August 21st through the 25th, we've got the Washington County Fair.
And then it's back to school time.
Well, that's our son's favorite time of the year. Is
Yeah,
back to school time.
get away from us.
Exactly.
So, that's what we're going to focus on next week. So tell them a little bit about what we have coming up next week.
Well, we're going to be talking about solving problems like a 5-year-old, a must-do before going back to school, and more that we've got going on. So we're excited about that.
Exactly.
I'm wondering if we can have, some folks on to challenge to see if they're more educated than a 5th grader.
Smarter than a 5th grader?
Smarter than a 5th grader.
How about smarter than a teenager?
There you go. There you go.
So, okay, well, let's wrap it up and move on to thanking our guests.
Exactly.
As always, our furnishings are provided by Ashley Home Store,
Yes.
and they will be coming on the show with us here in just a few weeks. So we're looking forward to that.
Yes, and of course we can't forget to thank Neighbors Mill for hosting our location here of the show.
Exactly.
Also to Bolt, NWA, for production and technology. And then, of course, I also see Dr. Charlie Barton in the house as well. So
I thought that
Barton
was her over
Consulting,
there.
LLC. And then, of course, we've had our great sponsor from Bill Taller with Amp Electric. We've
Covering
had-
all your electrical needs.
Exactly. We've had Meteor Guitar Gallery that certainly provided just some wonderful cabling for us here for our show. Also, Music Works as well. Who else?
Well, we have Nothing Bundt Cakes, and
Oh,
we
yes.
have been getting requests to have Nothing Bundt Cakes on the show, and I think they're going to be on our foodie show that we have coming
They
up.
are coming up.
So, with our foodie show, if you have a favorite chef that you would like to have us interview, or if you are an expert on food, just let us know, and we'll get you on the show as well. Last but not least, who else?
Rick McLeod with Farmers Insurance, doing a great job of helping out NWA Welcome Services and KR Promotions as well. So,
Well, until next week, this is Arlene and Mike saying, good morning, neighbor.
good morning, neighbor.